Welcome, everybody, to this JMC weekly webinar, Managing Contacts Part 1, Entering Contacts. This is part one of a two-part series, and it's December 15th, 2021. My name is Paul Freed. I have over 20 years of educational experience. I'm joined by Christina Holmes from Cross Lake Community School in Cross Lake, Minnesota. She's our little guinea pig for the day, right? Christina, I said you can ask questions as you go along. Christina, if you have any questions as we go, just because then you can share your questions and people can hear what you ideas that you have or thoughts, so that they can also learn as well. I also have Lois Tyler with us as well. Lois is co-presenting with me today, and she lives in the great state of Iowa, one of our great client service specialists here as well. So we're going to co-present here, Lois, and and Christina, you can jump in as you have questions. And Lois, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Well, I guess it's afternoon now, but it's a little blustery here in Iowa, but I hope everybody's safe and connected and, secure where they're at.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're supposed to get high winds here in southeastern Minnesota. I don't know if you're going to get that there as well, but
Yeah,
it's
we're getting out of school early for wins.
Really?
Yeah, that happens, I guess.
I guess that happens. That's awesome. Well, let's get to the topic at hand. That's great. All right. Today, we'll take an in-depth look at entering and reviewing contacts in JMC Office. Here's what's on the agenda: understanding contacts, adding in new contacts, attaching a new contact to a student record, and printing a list of contacts. Here we go. Please hold all of your questions until the Q&A session at the end of each section. If you do need to communicate with the host, feel free to use the Q&A chat feature in your webinar toolbar. Except for you, Christina, you can unmute yourself and you can ask a question at any time. So understanding context. And Lois, I know you and I said we're going to split up here, so I think I'm taking this first part and then maybe we're going to take the second. I'm not quite sure, but you just jump in when you're ready here. So student contacts. A contact in JMC is any person, typically an adult, that will have an influence on the student's life. These could be parents, guardians, grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, babysitters, health professionals, and others. Without defining context for students, you would be unable to view siblings or support family accounting for meals or tuition and fee accounts. Student contact associations allow the JMC software to funnel student information to the correct context based on the contact type. In a nutshell, what this means is that when you attach the students to the context and you attach them correctly, JMC does a lot of great work to help manage that information and saying, here, these are siblings or these people are on the same lunch account or whatever it might be. So really helpful tool. So contacts and how they're used. We're able to effectively help you manage your family and contact demographic data. For example, primary contacts have access to student information through JMC Family. Lunch contacts are allowed to make account deposits into their lunch account. Same would be with like the tuition and fees contact. Primary contacts receive student mailings and emails such as report cards and schedules. When associating a contact with a student on the View Student Data page, choose the contact types on the following pages. So we're going to run through each particular contact type here so people understand what they are. The first is primary contacts. Primary contacts are responsible for a student's day-to-day well-being and activities. In most cases, these are parents, step-parents, and guardians, but in some cases could be grandparents. One thing I do see people do is they'll sometimes put like the grandparents' contact information, like phone numbers, in on the primary contact page. You can do that, but you also can set up the grandparents under their own contact as well. Secondary contacts. Secondary contacts are those responsible for a student but are not the primary caretakers. Typically, these folks are non-custodial aunts and uncles, grandparents, neighbors, or babysitters. The only reason you put secondary contacts in typically is so you know who to call or who might pick up a student from school. Secondary contacts will not receive emails or voicemails or report cards or anything like that. Only primary contacts will receive that information. Lunch fee and organization contacts. These contacts are responsible for making payments to a student's account. For the lunch account, that contact is responsible for paying the account balance for a student's breakfast, lunch, and a la carte items, or for applying for free and reduced status. Only one contact can apply for free and reduced status. That's a federal law, actually, and that's going to be the lunch contact. There's also the fee or organization. This is the contact responsible for paying any fees, registration, athletic activity that a student accrues as well. Then we have other contacts. JMC supports even more contact types. There's the emergency. That's the contact to call when parent or guardian is unavailable during an emergency. I will let you know that families can edit and enter emergency contacts in the summer online registration process. So that's pretty sweet. You don't have to enter them yourself. We've got the doctor. That's the student's primary care physician. Used to be used a lot back in the day, as they say, but not really used anymore. There's a storm contact is where a student goes during inclement weather. Not used very often, but here in Lake City, Minnesota, there's been a few times when students can't make it home from school because there's bluffs here and rolly hills, and so they had a storm contact. Now, typically the superintendent just makes sure to let out school plenty early, so not used as much anymore. And then there's the other contacts who don't fit into any of the other categories. So um, Christina, or if anybody has any questions now, you can ask those questions. But Christina, do you have any questions about those different type of contacts, or do all those different types make sense to you?
I think all of those, it's really good to hear a detail and understanding of what each of those mean, because I see them all there, but I don't always know what they do and how they are viewed then on the teacher side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the other cool thing to know is like Christina Holmes could be a contact, a primary contact to her kids, and Christina Holmes can also be an emergency contact to somebody else, right? So depending on the student, they can have different designations. Great.
Yes, we do a lot of that because we have families who are, parents of one kid, but they're an emergency contact for another kid.
Yep.
Might be someone's mom, but they're somebody else's aunt or neighbor.
That's right. But the important thing to note is they only need to be entered in one time. That's the key. You can tie that one record to different students and put them as those different contact designations. So great idea. All right, Lois, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So I think we'll keep on rolling. So I think I'm going to keep rolling. Lois, I think you're doing the next section. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
All right. Lois keeps me on track here. Adding in new contacts. Complete contact records on the edit contacts page allows all parts of JMC Office to work efficiently and in sync. The message center can send text messages and make phone calls. Families can easily access the family portal, and school mailings can make their way into the hands of primary contacts. Here you can add new contacts to your JMC database or make changes to existing contacts. And, we kind of focus a little bit on primary contacts because those are the main folks, right, that you're going to be putting in first. Now, once you got a handle on primary contacts, the other contacts are pretty easy to manage as well. So let's take a look at how to edit a contact record from changing the address to marking a phone number able to receive text messages. So this is where I like everybody to put their contacts in. I think this is the easiest way to do this. So navigate to attendance, contacts, edit contacts to get started. Attendance, contacts, edit contacts. Step one, you can use the find box, right, to find the student, but we're looking at adding new person. So you'll click the add button to create a new contact. Helpful tip, any student associated with a selected contact is displayed in the student with this contact list, including student names and contact types to better identify the family members. Like I said before, Christina Holmes could be in here and she could be the primary contact to 3 students, but the secondary contact or emergency contact, maybe to nieces and nephews, all of that would be listed right here. But for ease of use, you'll simply come in here and click the add button to add a new contact. Another thing you can do also is if you've got a lot of contacts in there, you're doing contact cleanup, sometimes people will come in and search for the contact first, right? If you can search for the contact, because that way you're not putting the same contact in multiple times. So that's not, we don't have that as like a step 1 or step 2. It's kind of just like a little bit of thing you can do. Like, you can ask family, have you ever lived, in Cross Lake before? Okay, have you had a kid attend this school? Have you been in emergency contact? Oh, no. Well, take just a second, type in the find box, see if they're in there. And if they are, then you can use them. If not, then you can add a new contact. Step 2, enter or change the contact name or address information in the appropriate field. So I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Step 3, enter their email address in here. The first one you want to put is email 1. Helpful tip, you can add up to 8 email addresses for each contact. Step 4, let me go back to this. If you have a married couple that lives together, you can put their name together, Claire and John McElmurray, listed right here. There's some other ways you can be creative with that if they've got different last names. So I'll show you that in just a moment as well. But if the primary contacts live together and the other primary contacts, you want to put them in as one contact record. Step 4, enter a phone number in the phone field here. Helpful tip, enter up to 8 phone numbers to be messaged. Step 5, enter a description in the description field to easily identify the phone number at a later date. I like that, especially, that will show up in the JMC teacher for your teachers to be able to see so they know who they're calling or what the number is there. And we've got a helpful tip. This can be dad's cell, mom work, or home landline, or whatever it might be. Step 6, you can choose the type listed right here. Now, if you're going to have this phone number receive a text message here, cell needs to be chosen, cell 1 or cell 2. And JMC will not allow you to put a phone number in here that is not a cell phone number. And I'll show you that in just a moment here as well. So if you want them to receive text messages, click put cell in there, and then you'll choose these over here, which I'll show in just a moment. The cool thing is if you don't know if it's a cell number, you can choose a cell and it will tell you if it's not. Step 7, select a phone number rank in the rank drop-down list. Most people don't do this. They just leave it as ranked listed right there. But the helpful tip is that rank 1 is a higher priority phone than rank 2. Higher priority phone numbers are contacted the earliest. So you typically want to put the phone numbers that you want to be called for a snow day or whatever up high. Step 8, place a check mark in the appropriate messaging service checkboxes to identify this phone number for text messaging, phone calling, and notifications here. You want to make sure to check at least the emergency weather related and student lunch related, because those are the most common, probably 99, if not 100% of your messages sent out from your school are those types of phone calls. The general school information is not used very much in JMC, so you can check it if you want to, but most schools don't use it. Helpful tip, only phone numbers marked with the SMS option will be text message. So that's the text message part there. You'd have to check that. Step 9, click either of the save buttons here. There's one up here and one down here to save your record, or you can delete it. And you can also, if you wanted to print out this record to give it to them to look at, you sure could do that as well. So let's take a look at adding in new contacts. So I'm going to go to attendance, contacts, edit contacts. Now, I always say if you've ever part of a training with JMC that I'm conducting, you'll know I like to open multiple screens at the same time. So I'm going to come here to edit contacts. I'm going to right click and left click, open a new window. Now I've got my edit context screen open here. I'm going to click if I want to find somebody first, let's just show you. I'm going to say, hey, I got a new person here. It's a McElmurray, right? Let's say it's Paul and Sarah McElmurray. Oh, Paul and Sarah are not on there. I see a Paul, but that's a different Paul, right? No, that's not the Paul that I want. This is a new Paul and Sarah. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click the add button and I'm going to say first name, Paul and Sarah McElmurray, Celmury. And then you can put the address in here, 322 County 6 Boulevard. And then you can put the city in here. We'll do Lake City and Minnesota. 55041. Okay, now the question comes up pretty frequently. What do you do if they've got different last names? Now, the different last names, if I'm Paul McElmurray and we're Sarah Freed, we can do Paul and Sarah McElmurray and Freed. That's one way to be able to do that. And I don't think that's a bad idea. The only thing is that this last name, whatever's in the last name field, is what the parents are going to use to log on to the JMC Family Portal, right? What's that JMC Family Portal? It's the portal where families go online and they log in to see grades and attendance and all that kind of stuff right here. So whatever's in that last name field, that's what they're going to have to put in there. So this is one way you could do it. If they are parents who were divorced and then got married, where you'd say like Paul McElmurray is the biological parent of that student, what I'll sometimes do is I'll actually put the address on the second address line and I'll put Sarah Freed here and I'll put Paul McElmurray here. And that's the way it's going to print on a label. So what this is what this is telling me, if I was to look at this, and you can, as a school, can decide how you want to do it, that this parent, Paul McElmurray, is the biological parent. Sarah Freed is not the biological parent, but still part of the primary context there. And that's how it's again going to print on a label. And then McElmurray would be the username, the last name to log into the JMC Family Portal listed there as well. So you can do it however you want. I'm going to assume again that these folks are married here, and we'll just go like this and I'll put this back, but that's just the couple ways that you can handle that. But that's the fields that you have to work with listed right there. And then again, city, state, and zip. We don't tell you to put a password in because families can set their own password, right? If you set this up, they can actually type in here, forgot your password, and it will ask them what their username is, McElmurray, and what their email is, and it'll email them directions to reset their password. But if you want to, you could sure put a password in here. Again, we don't put it in the directions because most people now just have their parents set their own password. But if you want to collect it, you sure can. Put your email address in here. We'll put it in here, training at jmcinc.com. And put a phone number in here. Like I said before, it's pretty cool because it will verify if the phone number is a cell phone. So we put in 651-345-2149. If I change that to a cell, I know that's a landline. and I check that SMS text messaging here, it will tell me the phone number does not appear to have a text messaging service. Please verify the phone number. That's pretty cool. I'd say, oh, that must not be a cell number. That must be their home number here. And then I can save it for that particular student right there. And that's all there is to it. I come in here, make sure to check to receive these messages here. Again, you might as well check them all if you know that they want to receive them all. Oh, because again, I can't do text messaging, right? Because it's not a cell phone. And click save just like that. Really easy to come in and be able to manage that information right there. So that's how you enter in a new contact. I'd search first, make sure they're not in there, and then add in the information that we have right here. All right. Christina, any questions about kind of the process there and kind of the hints that I give to put in a contact?
Well, those are all really great ideas. I appreciate them. Thanks.
Great. Yeah. And anybody else has questions can type them in too. The other thing to note, right, is that every contact is put in this way. It doesn't matter if it's a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, you'd put them all in this way. You'd simply come in here, click add another contact and put that contact in there, because contact records are their own records. Now we're going to show how we tie them to the family. So, all right. Lois, I don't see any questions in there. Is that correct?
Yep, I see that we're clear.
And we're at slide 23. I think that's what you told me, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're going to take it here, attaching a new contact to a student record. Take it away, Lois.
Okay. So attaching a contact to a student is how you create a student contact association. Student contact associations are edited on the View Student Data page located in JMC Office. The contact type, description, and whether the contact is included in reports and mailings can all be set here. So attach a contact to a student by navigating to the View Student Data page. So step 1, select the student to be edited by entering the name of the student in the Find drop-down list. Step 2, select any empty contact choice from the contacts drop-down list in the upper left-hand corner of the contacts area. The contacts area can be found in the upper right-hand corner of the page. A helpful tip, each student can have up to 10 contacts attached to them. So step 3, click the Change Contact button to select a contact to be attached to the student. So here's step 4, select the contact to be attached by entering the name in the Select a Contact drop-down list. So this is where you type in that contact you just had entered. Step 5, click the OK button to continue or click the Close button to cancel the contact selection. Step 6, select the contact type from the Type drop-down list to define the contact's relationship to that student. Are they, primary, secondary, emergency? Those are your options there. Step 7, enter a description of the relationship between the contact and student in the description field. A helpful tip, an example of a description might be dad or grandpa, aunt. Step 8, click the Save button to save your new student contact association to the student's record. So this is that helpful tip. Parents and guardians who live together should be entered as one primary contact. In doing that, you're going to ensure they only get one mailing. If they're together in the same household, you don't want to have 2 letters going out to them and 2 things every time.
Absolutely. Great. All right, let's take a live look at attaching a new contact to a student record here. So I'm going to come here under, well, first of all, what I like to do is I like to have multiple screens open. So I'm going to have my View Student Data screen open here. And here's my contact page right there. I don't know, just makes sense to me. So I'm going to come here and I've got my student here. Let's find one of my McElmurray students here. Here we go. We'll find Sue McElmurray. Okay. There we go. So here's Sue McElmurray. She's a 9th grader. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click Change Contact. It means I'm changing the contact over here. Now, a quick side note is if this student is a sibling to somebody else who's already been at the school, you can actually click Copy Contacts. They'll say it's going to overwrite this, and you can copy the contacts from the sibling. So once you have one sibling set up, you can just copy them one after another. That's a really sweet tool to use inside there for those copy contacts. But we're putting a new contact in. So we're going to click Change Contact, find the person there, MCEL. All right. There we go. There's all the McElmurrays. And if I'm like, oh, which one is it? I think it's Paul and Sarah. You can say, well, which one did I put in? Oh, it's right there. There we go. Paul and Sarah. Good. Paul and Sarah, and click OK. Once I've done that, now I'm going to choose the type. Now you'll notice it defaults to primary. We always default the first contact you put into primary because the assumption is that's the person they're living with most of the time. And then you can put a description in here. You could call it parents. Honestly, typically people don't put in a description if it's the parents for the student. It would be for the next one that you would put in there. So I click save and then you're good to go. Now we're going to talk about next week how to enter in divorced parents. So I'm not going to go into that. But let's say I'm going to enter in an aunt or an uncle. I could simply come in here. and do empty contact number 2. Now there's just a couple of things to note here. I'll choose change contact. And now I'm just going to grab somebody else here. This is going to grab an aunt or something like that. Here is John Freed. I click OK. Now, after the first contact, every subsequent contact here, the type will always be other because we don't know who it is, right? So you want to change that type. We'll change that to secondary and say this is the uncle. Just like that. And click save. When I click save there, it's going to default back to the first one. So now I've got this one. So now when I click on my long bar here, say primary parents, secondary uncle, just like that. If I wanted to put another contact in, I'd go here. Maybe I've got a grandparents in there, right? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to change the contact. And again, I could go over here to edit contacts, add that contact in, but I'm going to pretend that I did that already. And we're going to put in Smith here. We're going to put in Mary and Larry Smith. That's the grandparents. Click OK here. We're going to make them the emergency contacts. Click the type, make it emergency, make this grandparents, and click save. And now I've got 3 contacts listed there. That's all there is to it. Now, here's the thing to note, and they'll talk about this a little bit in the divorce context next time, is that people get a little confused because they're like, well, you know, this kid lives with this person and this person's divorced and blah, blah, and all these kinds of things. From a JMC standpoint, all we care about is this kid right now, Sue McElmurray. Who's attached to Sue? This is Sue's parents. This is Sue's uncle. This is Sue's grandparents. Maybe this is a divorced dad, but whatever it might be. You just take one student at a time, make sure that their contacts are correct. That's all you need to do. So then when you go to the next person here, here is, let's go to another McElmurray here. Let's say that Sarah here is a sibling of Sue. So we just got done putting Sue's in here, and Sarah's a sibling. I can actually come here and say, well, I'm going to copy the contacts. I'm going to copy that from Sue McElmurray. So I'll type in McElmurry. Here is Sue. And I'm going to click OK. And now it automatically goes to other in case you want to add a new one. So I'm just simply going to click save here. When I click save it, now there it is again. Primary parents, secondary uncle, emergency grandparents. Now you might say, well, no, this is a sibling by divorce, whatever it might be. They don't have the same grandparents. You could come here to grandparents and I could clear that out and say that's not the grandparent there. And I can save that. And now I've got it set up here. So what's telling me though is that I've got the parents and the uncle in there. And again, I would just put in for Sarah what Sarah's contacts are separate from Sue. But it also now lists Sue as a sibling because anybody who has the same primary contacts will be a sibling. So I can go here and click Sue. And there is Sue listed right there as well. But the main thing to note, because it's not hard to come in and click change contact and choose the contacts or copy contacts, is for each student, simply make sure that they have the correct contacts listed, and JMC works out all the rigmarole in the behind of who is going to receive report cards and voice messages and text messages and things like that. So, okay, now we get to the question time here. Christina, do you have any questions about that? Is that helpful to show you how we add those different types of contacts and choose their type?
Yes, I have a question for you.
Great.
Okay, so our school has 3 different buildings in the district. When I'm entering in a new contact, is it going into the entire district or is that staying just in the building that I created it under?
Christina, it's almost like I paid you to ask that question. That's an awesome question. You only put contacts in one time and they're available in the whole district, right? So no matter what building you're in, the district will be in there. That's why like when families go in to log into the JMC Family Portal, they log in one time. They can see their kids no matter how many buildings that they have. So if you've got, you're saying you have 3 buildings in your school, you put them in, no matter what building you put them in under edit contacts, you'll be able to see that contact in those buildings. So you put them in one time and you're good to go. Does that answer your question?
Wonderful. I have another question.
Great.
So what if I put somebody in, I've got all of my contacts in and I'm like, oh, great. I realized that I made a mistake and I put the wrong person as the primary and I need to switch the order around because I've noticed that if you just reassign them and it doesn't reorder them the way you want them in. That's
Sure.
how I'll explain this.
Yeah.
So let's say I've got primary parent is Joe, and I realize, oh no, Joe is an emergency contact. I need to make Mary the primary contact, but I've got Mary on the bottom, and I can't just
just change their description. I want to actually change their whole order. How do I do that?
Yeah, there's not like it's not hard, but there's not like a way to just say, hey, I want to drag and drop these kids here. So you come here and say, all right, this is not the primary contact. Let's say that is the primary contact there, but let's say I want the grandparents to be up here as the emergency, whatever. You would simply come here to the second slot, I'll call it, my contact number 2, and just click change contact. Who's the contact? I'm just going to choose somebody here and click OK. And this is actually going to be, right, the uncle here. There we go. And then I'm going to go to my third contact here, which is the grandparents. This is not the grandparents, or whatever it might be. So you just simply come in here and click change contact and put them where you want them to be. There's no drag and drop feature listed there as well. So I tell people there's no easy way to do it, but it's really not that hard. Again, you just come to this student and say, all right, who should be first? If that's first person, great. If not, click change contact, put them up there, whatever you want. Who should be second? Should this be the person? Nope. Click change contact and then you're good to go. Does that make sense?
That's great. A lot
Great.
easier than entering everybody in.
Absolutely.
Doing
And
everything.
that's right. And you just say one kid, put their contacts the way that you want them. The question I thought you were going to ask, but you didn't, was what if you put a contact in twice? And we actually do have a little bit of a time saver there. You can go to under attendance, contacts to merge contacts. And you can say, all right, I've got the same person in twice. If I go Smith, because I always put these Smith people in here. Let's put in, apparently I don't put a lot of Smiths in there. We'll do Mary and Larry Smith are actually Aunt and Uncle Smith. So I'll put in here Smith. That's also Aunt and Uncle Smith. You can put the one that you want to kind of get rid of, I'll say, or combine with this one right here. So here's the one I want to keep, the main contact, we call that. And here's the duplicate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the merge button down here. When I click merge, what it does is it takes all these kids, these student contact associations, and put them under this student here and fills in any phone numbers that might be open. So it's actually not going to do it for any of these things because these particular ones already have a slot over here. And lots of times what you'll see is, right, it's going to have the same information listed there or both. But by clicking merge now, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do that? I now have deleted out effectively this contact right here, which was Aunt and Uncle Smith, and put them under Mary and Larry, and all those student associations have been listed under there as well. So it's a way to go in, instead of deleting out, you're literally merging them. And so it merges all the lunch information and things like that as well. So really great feature.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, Lois, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Did you want me to do the next section, Lois, or do you want to?
I sure can.
Great. Printing a list of contacts. Take it away, Lois.
Okay, so if you need a list of all families in your district or a list of emergency contacts with their related students, print a contact directory report in JMC Office. Select the contact and view their address, phone number, and associated students. Include the student grade level and cell phone number. To get a contact directory report in JMC Office, you go to Attendance, Contacts, and Print Contact Directory. Step 1, select the contact type from the Print Directory for Contact Type drop-down list to filter the report to your selected contact type. Step 2, click the Preview button to view the selected contact types. Step 3, click that Print button to print a copy of the report, or you can click Export button to export the report to a CSV text file. And a helpful tip, the contact directory will be printed for the selected contact type. If you need a report for a different contact type, repeat the steps above and choose a different contact type in step 1.
This is super duper easy.
Yes.
And there's a few reasons to do this, but I'm going to show you how to do it first. So let's go back to my home screen. Go to Attendance, Contacts, Print Contact Directory. Choose Primary, click Preview. There's the list right there. I can export that if I want to a spreadsheet and bring all that information in. All right, why would you do this? Well, I've done a lot of trainings, Lois, in my day, and here's why we do this. Number 1, schools will tell me sometimes like, oh, we still have parents fill out a piece of paper because we keep all those pieces of paper in case there's an emergency or we need to leave the school, and that way we have it. You don't need to do that. All the information's in JMC. You can print this off and then you have it ready to go. Some schools used to, still do, print off a directory for everybody. It's not as common, but this will allow you to print that directory as well. It's also a way to come in and see for each contact who's associated underneath there, and if anybody's missing any phone numbers, addresses, or things like that there as well. But in a nutshell, there's no reason to have families or parents or guardians fill out a sheet of paper. There's no reason to have any of that stuff, you can print that contact directory right here. And if anybody says, oh, we need a list of all the students and their parents in case there's a school emergency, this is what that directory is. So I would come in, if you haven't done this already, print a contact directory, put it in your, file cabinet, put it in the principals or whatever, if you, whatever you might want to do. You could print one for each teacher if you wanted to, but teachers can also look up this information in the JMC Teacher. So you don't really need to do that, but this is your one-stop shop to be able to do that. Also, if you want to do some auditing and say, oh, how many emergency contacts do we have here? Let's just check it out. Here, oh, I've only got 3 and here's who attached to them, right? You can go and see that. Lastly, this is a great way to identify the same contact listed twice. So if I come here, let's see if I didn't actually have one set up here. It's because I usually go through these as well. But let's say I had in here, Dad Freed and John Freed were the same person. Like, oh, I need to merge. Here we go. These Paul Freeds right here, right? I need to merge them. There shouldn't be 2 separate Paul Freeds. These people are the same person there. I can come back here to merge contacts. I can actually open it in a separate screen if I wanted to. And I'll come here to Freed. And here's Paul Freed here. And I could find the other Paul Freed right here. And I could merge them just like that, and I'd be good to go. But I would look and say, well, oh man, they don't have exactly the same address. You might want to call them or whatever it might be there. But that print contact directory, really handy tool for you to be able to do it. And the export function is pretty sweet too, in case you want to export to have emails or something like that. So great. All right. Christina, any questions about that before we take the questions from the folks who are typing questions in?
No, that's good.
Great. Lois, was there a question that came in?
Yeah, it's just wondering if we can show them how to have more than one primary contact for a student.
Sure, absolutely. That's going to be the next week, just which is the entering divorce contexts. But I'll show you right here. So let me come in here. I'm actually going to clear out these other contacts because Sue McElroy was the student I was working with. So let's go here, emergency here. Okay. All right, so I'll do it briefly. There is more steps to doing divorce contacts. That's why I have a whole webinar next week. But in a nutshell, what you would do is this would say this is the primary parents. This is Paul and Sarah McElmurray, and let's say that's the dad, right? You could come in here. I'm going to go to my empty contacts number 2, and I've already come in here, edit contacts. You've already put them in, so I'm assuming that that's been done. And I'm going to come here and click change contact. Let's say this person has a different last name, Smith. This is the mom. This is Mom Smith. Click OK. And come in here. You'll make that a primary contact, just like that. And then you have to decide if you want them to be included in lunch and access and tuition fees. And that's what they're going to talk about next time. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds there because it's a little more in depth. But this is the basic part here where you'll come in here and put mom. And now what happens, which is pretty cool, an update we made last year, we tell that when we come here, we tell you that there's one of 2 primary contacts. So this is the first primary contact. This is the second primary contact. I probably would change the parents to actually listed to say dad. And sometimes I'll even put in, remarried maybe. It's because it's just internal for your school. And so what you can do there is I've now got primary, dad, remarried, and mom listed right there. But again, there's a little bit more to it with the tuition and fees and mailings and reports and things like that there as well. But that's how you do it. So great question. All right. Any other questions there, Lois?
I don't see any other ones there.
All right. Well, let's take this one home. JMC News and upcoming events. Sign up today via the teacher office homepage here. You'll see them there. We've got next week, Managing Contacts, Part 2, Entering Separated Couples. 12/29, no weekly webinar. Everybody can have a good winter break. January 1st, getting ready for the 22-23 school year. It's ordering your software for the next school year. And 1/12, working with custom fields. So I'm excited about that there as well. It's back, folks, now through December 2021. We're offering schools a discount to refer their friends. For every school you refer that signs up for our software, we'll give each of you a $500 scholarship for your district. Questions, email our sales team for more details there. We are hiring for 6 passionate part-time client service specialist in Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. As a client service specialist, you'll develop meaningful relationships with our users through communication, training, and support. In return, we offer competitive salary and opportunity to work remotely. It's a part-time job. It's really great way to stay connected. Read the full job posting here for further details. To apply, email your resume and letter introduction to hr@jmcinc.com with job application in the subject title. Another great way to stay up to date on all things JMC is through our social media presence. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Online JMC or our blog listed there. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Christina, thanks for joining us. Christina's going to join us next week as well. I will not be doing the next one next week. It will be Brett and Jake and Lois. Thanks for joining us as well. So on behalf of the entire JMC team, thanks for your time today, and thank you for choosing JMC.